It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant pride.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Friday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. We come to you from the Giants Podcast Studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. Paul Dottino along with Matt Citak will be here for the next hour. We will talk Giants football with you as they prepare for Sunday's home game against the Minnesota Vikings. In addition to that, folks, as you know, the Giants coming into this last home stretch, yes, they are trying to win. Obviously, Mike Kafka has said this ad infinitum as everybody keeps asking him about how do you approach these games, and it's all about trying to win games. But this game in particular for me, Matt, holds a very special interest. And folks, if you think about it for a second, you'll understand where I'm coming from. There are two reasons why I really am extremely excited about this game and have this under the microscope, even though standings-wise, it doesn't mean a whole lot, okay? And by the way, I'm not talking about draft pick either.
Let's hear it.
Let's make that clear, because you and I don't.
Yes, of course.
We don't subscribe to that stuff. I have two things that I'm very, 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 very interested in this game. The first one is obvious. Jackson Dart is going to face the most complex, chaotic blitz package that the NFL has to offer because of Brian Flores, the Vikings defensive coordinator, who no doubt, given his history with interviewing with this organization, is going to throw more than the kitchen sink at Jackson Dart on Sunday, and I'm sure very badly is going to want to win this game and do what he can to wreak havoc on the Giants offense. That's what Flores does. Now, for Dart's, from his perspective, you know, you talk about an education that he's receiving this year as a rookie. There are few things better, in all honesty, few things better than being thrown into a situation like this against that scenario. I'm really excited to see how he handles it. And to be honest with you folks, and again, the final score, sure, the Giants want to win, and that's clearly what everybody in that locker room wants as well. But I'm more focused on how does Jackson Dart do against a very uniquely challenging defense, of which he has not seen anything like what the Vikings will throw at him on Sunday and will not in the next 2 weeks as the season closes down. This is a big deal for me.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is by far and away Jackson's toughest challenge remaining on the schedule because no offense to Patrick Graham of the Raiders or Matt Eberflus of the Cowboys, but they don't bring quite the same punch to their defense and their defensive systems as Brian Flores does with the Vikings. This is going to be a great test for Jackson. As you mentioned, something he has not faced ever before, won't face for the next couple of weeks. At this time of year, I mean, we've said this now for the last couple of weeks, but this time of year, the thing that we want to see most is just some of these young players on the roster that will be here next year and moving forward, to see them have some breakout performances like we saw from Abdul last week. That was a great step in the right direction for Abdul Carter last week. Now, Jackson in the second half was great against the Commanders. He really struggled in the first half, though. So if he could put together a more complete performance against this defense on Sunday, not that we're already not feeling, encouraged about the promising start to Jackson Dart's career, but it would just, go a little bit further in giving us even more confidence that he's ready to be, the guy for this team in 2026 and moving forward.
It would be a significant step for him.
Yeah.
It really would. Now, just to make sure you guys totally understand why, we're not just kind of going with a crazy narrative here. These are legitimate facts about this Vikings defense that you guys ought to be aware of as you watch Jackson Dart try to navigate the hurdles that they're going to throw at him. First of all, they by far lead the NFL in blitz percentage on passing downs at 43%. That's number one. So they're coming hard and often. All right? Basically,
it's been the staple of the Brian Flores defense.
That's what he does. Okay? He's like even more wink than wink. Okay? That's number one. Number two, I don't have their blitz percentage against running plays. Nobody seems to keep that. I don't know why, but nobody seems to keep that. But tackles for a loss this year, which does indicate getting hit behind the line of scrimmage, which of course is a byproduct of sending guys. They have 85 tackles for losses this year, which is third in the NFL. Okay? So it's like a wave of purple. All right. In addition to that, I also should tell you that opponents in the red zone, only 45% touchdown conversion rate, which is tied for second best in the NFL. Okay? This is a legitimate mountain that Jackson Dart is going to have to navigate on Sunday. Those three things right there, those are all big time numbers for this Vikings defense. They are overall ninth in yardage allowed, so ninth best in terms of fewest yards allowed by the opponent. And they are the fifth best passing defense, according to yardage allowed. These are all critical rankings that all point toward Jackson Dart having to navigate a difficult day. Now, I had someone say to me last night, well, how many sacks do they have? Why don't they have more sacks than the Broncos if they send all these guys? Well, because Flores, much like Wink Martindale, believes that pressure breaks pipes. It's not just about the sacks. It's about the pressure and the chaos you cause that forces your opponent into making mistakes. And sometimes pressure is better than a sack because a pressure may force a turnover or a significant loss, which is just as good as a sack if it turns out to be a run and it's a 7-yard loss. It could, so that's why, despite the fact that they only have 35 sacks on the season, which is tied for 11th in the league, they don't have huge sack numbers. The other item that's important to note, and I don't know if you did any of this in your preview that you did for Giants.com, they've got 13 different players who have at least a sack this year. 13, which shows you the variety of guys and the variety of packages. It's not just the frequency of his blitzes, it's the variety of what he's sending. That's why people call this defense chaos.
Yeah, I mean, he is probably the best defensive play caller in terms of disguising his looks. I mean, disguising where the blitz is coming from. He blitzes a lot, but it is very tough for opposing offenses of offensive lines to figure out where exactly the blitz is coming from, because, they'll have, 6 guys up on the front, and then all of a sudden 2 of them drop back at the snap, and someone else that wasn't even on the front, he's the one that gets sent in as the blitzer. So Tim Kelly was talking about this yesterday, how, like, as we've said, this is going to be a tough test for Jackson. He hasn't seen a defensive system quite like this. And Mike Kafka also mentioned today, Jackson has done a great job of being able to recognize defenses from the looks that he gets pre-snap and very quickly post-snap being able to sort of interpret the defensive look that he's getting. So this is certainly going to be the toughest challenge for him in that regard because, again, Flores does a tremendous job of confusing opposing quarterbacks. And I'm talking about quarterbacks, veterans that have been around the league a long time and have seen a lot of looks, and he still confuses them with all the different looks that he presents. One other stat I saw from Next Gen Stats that pertains to this is Jackson has been getting the ball out in under 2.5 seconds, which is sort of the barometer they use for quarterbacks, at the 7th highest rate of any quarterback in the NFL, which is pretty good. And he's had success. He's had success when getting it out quickly. However, the Vikings have allowed the second lowest completion percentage to quarterbacks when they throw it in under 2.5 seconds. So even though quarterbacks are trying to get rid of the ball quickly to, help cancel out these blitzes that they don't know where it's coming from, the defense is prepared for it and have been doing a good job of at the very least, getting their hands on the ball or forcing incomplete passes. So, yeah, this is going to be another great challenge for Jackson. And if he can come out and have a performance like he did in the second half against the Commanders, but do it for all 4 quarters against this defense, that'll be very, very impressive and have all of us feeling even better about him, as the season comes nearing its end.
Now, to cap off the dart point, so the Vikings defense leads the NFL with pressures on 41% of their plays. So even though they're not getting the huge sack numbers, the pressure numbers are there. And by the way, that does translate into the Vikings, who have absolutely caused all kinds of havoc in the backfield. It translates into, when you look at their defensive numbers and you look at the fact that they shut out Washington 31-0 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Okay. They held the Bears to 19 points. I know, Cincinnati early in the season, they held them to 10. They're giving up 22 points a game, which is 13th in the league. But there have been several, that's an average. There are several games they've been under that. So on any given week, they are fully capable of making life very, very difficult for you to score. As I said, the red zone number is just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. All right.
Yeah, this is not a team that you want to get too far behind.
No.
And their offense the last couple of weeks has looked a lot better, and paired with how the Giants defense has played for basically the last 2 months, it'll be a challenge for Jackson and the whole offense if they're, trailing 2 touchdowns early and have to play from behind, and the Vikings defense really gets to just pin its ears back and get after Jackson. That is going to make it a very long and tough day for the Giants offense. So got to get out to a fast start.
So this would be a real feather in Dart's cap if he is able to produce, and certainly at a high level against this defense. I will give you their one Achilles heel. I don't know if you were able to research this. The one Achilles heel. The Vikings have, unfortunately, with their offense, which is really bad with turnovers. Oh, my goodness. Oh, they've thrown 20 interceptions this year. They lead the NFL in giving the ball away for picks. It's about field position. That's the one way that you can score against this defense without having to navigate Mount Everest, is if you get a turnover and get really easy field position. And unfortunately for them, that's why their record is 6-8. Okay? Because their defense has really put them in their offense has put them in a lot of bad spots over the course of the season, and then made things really difficult and stressed out their defense. That's the one thing. If they are put in a really tight spot by their offense, like any good D, you can take advantage of them. All right? It's that simple. But don't expect to necessarily move the ball downfield effectively against them, and don't expect to hit big plays. By the way, opponents only have 29 pass plays of 20 yards or more against the Vikings this year, fewest in the NFL. So you're not going to hit any bombs, or probably not too many.
They don't give up too many of those big explosive plays.
All right, enough about Dart, but that's why this is a huge game for me watching him. I, in the worst way, want to see Jackson Dart have a really good game Sunday. Even if the Giants lose, for goodness sakes, I want him to play really well.
Yeah.
That would be great.
I'm with you.
Number 2, Abdul Carter. Folks, Christian Darrisaw is supposed to be the starting left tackle for the Vikes, but he hasn't practiced all week.
Correct.
He's hurt.
Yep.
We don't know for sure, but we don't think he's going to play.
I mean, it depends. If he sits out practice again today, that would certainly put him on the wrong side of questionable.
Right.
We don't have the injury report yet for today. If he gets out there in any sort of capacity, I would say that would make him trending the other way towards suiting up. So we'll find out soon enough.
Here's why it's a huge game for Abdul Carter. Since his second disciplinary situation that forced him to miss the first quarter against the Patriots, he has played 7 really good, sound quarters of football. quarters 2 through 4 against New England, in which he also had a sack, and then 4 terrific quarters last weekend against Washington.
Yep.
Which he, again, back-to-back games with sacks, career high 7 tackles last week, career high 3 tackles for a loss last week, career high 2 forced fumbles in a game, also recovered his second fumble in the season. He was impactful. By many organizations, he was NFC Rookie of the Week, was he not?
He was Pro Football Focus's Rookie of the Week. He made the Pro Football Focus overall Team of the Week. He was their highest-ranked edge defender across the NFL in Week 15. He was nominated for the Pepsi Rookie of the Week award, but and we could have a whole episode on this, but he did not win. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt of the Commanders won, and that's because we can go into this later, but there's a guy on Reddit who basically has rigged the system for this Pepsi Rookie of the Week award. Every single week, he, like, at the beginning of the week will say who he wants to win, and then that guy has literally won every single time. Anytime a commander is nominated, the commander player has won. Anytime no commander has been nominated and a different player in the NFC East was nominated.
Are you serious?
Despite having the best stats of that week, no one else in the NFC East has won. For example, just real quick, the week that Scat had the 3 touchdowns against the Eagles.
Yes.
And he clearly should have won, 100 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Yes.
Tet McMillan from the Panthers won, having caught 3 passes for like 25 yards and 2 touchdowns. And it's because there's this one guy who at the beginning of the season said, I found a way to rig the system.
Oh, he told people.
He wrote on Reddit. There's a post on Reddit saying, I found a way to rig the system. And every week that he has wanted someone to win, that person has won. Sorry to go off on a little tangent there. It's just ridiculous that that's how the Rookie of the Week award gets decided. And I know it's great that it's a fan vote, but...
Do you think that's actually how it gets decided?
But
or he's actually found a way?
I mean, I think so because he's literally at the beginning of each week has said player X is going to win, and player X has won every single time. It's crazy. I don't think
that's after the games.
Yeah, once they announce who the finalists are for the award each week, he says,
I trust you. You've been keeping track.
Yeah, anytime a commander's been nominated, even if he's by far and away the worst finalist, the commander player has won.
Wow.
Sorry to go off on a
No, it's good that you let people know. Yeah, that's good.
It's crazy. And I wish I could say, let Giants fans, let's all go out and vote, but it sounds like it wouldn't even make a difference because this guy has found a way to just completely rig it.
Wow. All right,
I guess
so
good for the Commanders. But.
Here is the point, though, about Carter. So not only do you want him to continue stacking and have a 3rd consecutive good game, which I would be really happy to see because I want him to finish out this season by kicking people's butt every week.
Yes.
All right, because that does mean something.
For sure.
It means that he's figured it out. It means that he has matured into the spot. He understands what it is to be a pro, and now you know what you're going to get out of him moving forward. You won't be sitting there in the offseason saying, I wonder if he's mentally focused the way he needs to be. Right? So you're on board with me on this.
100%.
All right. Now, if Darisaw plays, we know he's a quality left tackle. Okay? Depending upon which firm you want to grade, use their grades, he's either given up 2 or 3 sacks so far this season. Depends on which people you want to believe. But here's what I want to tell you. If Darisaw plays, that's a legitimate challenge, and if he beats him, it's a real feather in his cap. If he doesn't play, Justin School is going to be the starting left tackle for the Minnesota Vikings. If you don't know who he is, I don't blame you. He is a 6-year pro who came into the league with San Francisco and played for Tampa Bay and is basically a journeyman tackle. He is their 3rd tackle, okay? He would be the starting left tackle. This season, although he has played sparingly in some other games, in his 6 starts, he has allowed 5 sacks. He is a guy who is, as many scouts like to say, a JAG, just a guy. He is not of higher ilk, which means, Abdul Carter, if that's the guy you're lining up across from on Sunday, you need to have a big game.
Yeah, I agree completely. I've written about Abdul in a few of my different articles throughout the week. Obviously, as you mentioned, he's been fantastic the last 7 quarters. I mean, yes, he's got the sacks in back-to-back games, the forced fumbles last week. He's gotten 10 total pressures over the last 7 quarters combined. This is the Abdul Carter I think everyone was expecting when the Giants selected him 3rd overall. And he's had some tough matchups. I mean, his matchup last week against the Commanders, it wasn't easy.
No.
Going up against Laramie Tunsil, and at least for while Tunsil was out there.
Right.
And then, occasionally also lining up against Josh Connerly. But this is probably his toughest matchup remaining on the schedule. I mean, I guess, I'm not sure. Is Colton Miller healthy? I thought I saw he was banged up.
I thought he was hurting too.
Yeah.
So I don't know what
Colton
his
Miller is a
availability will be.
fantastic tackle. If he's playing, that would obviously be a very tough matchup as well. But we'll just focus on this week. But Christian Darrisaw is, when healthy, could play like a top tackle in the NFL. He's been a little inconsistent this year, but we've seen him do it before at a very high level. So, if Abdul can take advantage and win this matchup this week, similar to what we were just talking about with Jackson going up against the Flores defense, that would just be such an encouraging sign of growth and development from Abdul Carter. Again, he's 22 years old. He turned 22 after like a month into the season. I know he got off to a rough start to his career with, the half sack through 12 games. Then there was the couple of disciplinary matters. You would hope, especially after the second incident, whatever happened, that he's learned his lesson in terms of the off the field stuff. And based on what the coaches, like Charlie Bullen was talking about this yesterday, it certainly seems like Abdul has taken a big step the last couple of weeks in terms of his maturity off of the field, in terms of, making sure you're on time, not missing any meetings, anything like that.
He's been coming in early
even. And Charlie Bullen said yesterday that not only has he himself done everything that he possibly can in terms of off-field preparation, but that he's also encouraged and brought some of the other guys in the room and just on the defense with him, like to these early sessions, to these extra overtime film sessions or whatever it might be. So it certainly seems like Abdul has, over the last few weeks, I don't want to keep saying like learned his lesson, but that is kind of what it seems like, hopefully. And so it would be great if he can continue this clearly extra effort in the off-field work to then translate to more production on the field, because obviously the consistent production was the one thing we did not see from him the first 12 weeks. So he had some flashes, some games with pressures, but it wasn't really resulting in any actual on-field production. And so the last 7 quarters, we have seen that. And it would be fantastic and have all of us feeling, again, a lot better about just like the overall direction of some of this young nucleus if Abdul Carter, these last 3 games, can just ball out, get a couple more sacks. Then all of a sudden, we were looking at half a sack in his sack season total through 12 games. If he somehow finishes with like 5 sacks, obviously going into the year, we all thought that probably would be higher, but considering how the season started, that would be a fantastic way for him to end the season.
In spite of the inconsistencies, and maybe this stat actually shows you the inconsistencies, Next Gen Stats, right? They define quick pressures as any pressure at under 2.5 seconds, right? Next Gen Stats says he's got 31 of these quick pressures this year, which is 4th most in the entire National Football League, which tells you when he wins his snap, he is potent.
Yeah.
But the inconsistencies come from the fact that there are too many snaps where he's not winning. And there are too many snaps where over the first 2/3 plus of the season, he was neutralized.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
And also, like, obviously, pressures are great. You'd rather a pressure than nothing at all. But pressures only get you so far. And, as you mentioned earlier, like, yes, some pressures can lead to turnovers, can lead to bad decisions made by the quarterback. But some of those pressures need to result in sacks because the negative play really sets the offense behind. Once you get behind the chains, it's tough to overcome that. So the pressures are great, and you love to see it, but he does need to do a better job of translating some of those pressures into actual sacks, which we did not see him do for most of the season. But again, the last 2 weeks seems like he's kind of flipped a switch in that regard.
So those are the two things that, I'm really going to be focused on Sunday. And I get it. Again, these guys really want to win. So do the coaches. I just would love to see those two guys have terrific games. You would think that would enhance the Giants' chances to win, obviously.
Of course.
But it's also theoretically possible. Both guys could play really well and the Giants could still fall short.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. We kind of saw that, at least in the second half of last week's game. Both guys did play great.
Yes,
and
we did.
Still resulted in an 8-point loss.
The evidence is there.
Yeah. So in addition to those two guys, and this is kind of connected to at least the Jackson part, but I am also very interested to see just how the offensive line as a unit performs against this defense and the blitz package from Brian Flores, because I know we've spoken about it at times, especially the last month or two. The offensive line is really playing great this year, and it's getting overlooked because of obviously the 2-12 record.
Yeah,
but and I've mentioned this before with you. PFF does that weekly offensive line ranking where they rank the offensive lines across the league for the whole season. Giants moved up. Now they're 9 in the entire league, according to PFF.
How about
Again, PFF is not the end-all be-all, but
no, they're not.
But I mean, if you told us before the season started the Giants, at least from the PFF ranking, would have a top 10 offensive line, we all would have signed up for that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So this is
you.
another very tough test, just like it is for Jackson. It's a tough test for the offensive linemen as well. If they can have another good, clean game and also continue to get the run game going, because Tyrone Tracy's, he's really picked it up this last month or so. Other than the one Patriots game that he left early, he's got 97 or more total yards from scrimmage in his last 3 full games.
He's averaging 16 touches for 100 yards a game.
Yeah, he's looked great. So this will be a very good test for basically the whole offense, starting with the offensive line, Jackson, Tyrone,
JMS, the center.
JMS, yeah.
Big responsibility for the center
For
to
sure.
deal with this Vikings blitz package. And I was talking to Tyrone Tracy the other day, and he said he is really looking forward to this because he wants to know how far he's come in terms of being able to help keep his quarterback standing up.
Yeah, this is just a good barometer for everyone on the offense going up against this defense. The wide receivers, too. The Vikings have been phenomenal at limiting opposing wide receivers this season. So it might be tough sledding for Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slade, and the whole wide receiver core. But if they can get some level of production against this defense, again, it's just the season is what it is, but it would just be an encouraging step in the right direction as we head towards the offseason where there will be a lot of decisions to make up and down the roster.
Final thought about this, just so you know who you're looking for. Again, it's a variety of guys that are going to be coming on the blitz. Their leading sack guy for the year is inside linebacker, believe it or not, Eric Wilson, who has 5.5, tied with Dallas Turner, last year's number 1 pick, who also has 5.5. And their right end, Jalen Redmond, has 5. Now, ironically, the guy with the best sack resume is Jonathan Greenard.
Who's out?
He's out. He's got a shoulder injury.
Season-ending shoulder injury.
He's only got 3 sacks on the season. Now, when he was with the Houston Texans, he was a guy who could get after the quarterback. He had double-digit sacks.
I mean, even last year with the Vikings, he had 12.
He did.
He was a Pro Bowler.
So, he is their most dangerous individual sack artist, but this is about the combination of guys and the scheme more than it is about one particular guy. Because, again, they don't even have anybody with more than 6 sacks.
Yeah, but as we're talking about these Vikings pass rushers, you should also note, in terms of the injury report, what's his name? Javon Hargrave, veteran defensive lineman.
Terrific defensive tackle.
3.5 sacks on the season, which ranks 5th on the Vikings. He has not practiced yet this week.
Right.
So similar boat to Christian Darrisaw. We'll see what the injury report says today. He's dealing with a thigh injury. The Vikings are in a similar situation to the Giants in terms of they are out of the playoffs. The playoffs are not going to happen this year. So at this point of the year, when you have guys banged up, coaches need to make the decision. Is it worth, trying to have a guy fight through an injury for a game? I don't want to say that's meaningless, but it doesn't have playoff implications at least. So we'll have to keep an eye out on the injury report, which we should get in the next hour or two.
Another good battle to watch, and I'm just trying to make this game interesting for you folks because I know a lot of people probably don't have a lot of interest in this game, but if you want to get your eyes on the microscope here, there are some really, really good football battles to watch. Cordell Flott against Justin Jefferson. I mean, Flott's given up one touchdown pass all season. He has been dynamite.
That one scares me a little. And it's nothing to do with Flott. It's just the fact of
Jefferson's been very quiet.
We all know how good Justin Jefferson is. The fact that his numbers on the season look like they do, and especially his numbers the last couple of weeks. We talked about how the Vikings have 65 points over the last 2 games. That's with Jefferson doing basically nothing.
He's been really down.
That scares me.
Really down.
It seems like he's kind of due for one of those Justin Jefferson explosion games, and I certainly hope it's not going to come this week.
In the last 3 games, he's combined for 6 catches and 37 yards.
That's insane.
Now, apparently, he and J.J. McCarthy are not very much on the same page. McCarthy wants to dump off a lot more short and medium-range passes. Jefferson is used to going longer. Their timing has not been very good. And consequently, all of a sudden, Justin Jefferson has been somewhat of a pedestrian receiver. In fact, his numbers for the season, he's got one 100-yard game. That was in the first month against Pittsburgh when he caught 10 passes for 126 yards. For the year, 66 catches for over 630 yards at only 12.5 yards a catch and only 2 touchdowns. That is not a Justin Jefferson stat line.
Especially the touchdowns part. I mean, there are 4 players on the Vikings that have more receiving touchdowns than Justin Jefferson, and 2 of them are tight ends.
All right, so
that's insane.
What I will say to you is Jefferson's on the down. He's got 3 weeks to try to resuscitate his electricity going into the offseason. I do think it would be a feather in Cordell Flott's cap if he can keep him down.
Oh, yeah. And 2 LSU guys, so they're both going to be extra interested in taking advantage of the matchup and beating the other guy.
All right, so folks, that sets the table for Sunday's game at home against the Minnesota Vikings. I just think there are some very fascinating football stories to be looking for, matchups that really got my blood pumping, even though we're talking about 2 also-ran teams trying to finish up the end of the regular season. All right, let's go to the phones at 201-939-4513. Coach Marvin is first on the show today. Hello, Coach.
How you doing, Paul and Matt?
All right, how are you?
Coach, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. I was listening to the show yesterday. I wanted to comment on that a little bit, but that thing Matt was just talking about the player of the week, I'm hoping the NFL is going to investigate something like that. That shouldn't be happening.
I hope so too. But this guy made it known in week 1 that he was able to do it, and nothing has changed so far. But I hope you're right, Coach.
Yeah, hopefully. This week, it's a tough defense they planned. But the one thing I like about Dart is that he has very good pocket awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if they do send those guys, they got to be careful of him because he also have that escape ability to get outside. So hopefully that will be an advantage for Dart. But it's a difficult defense to figure out because they got so many moving parts to their defense.
Correct.
You don't know who's who. And but I'm hoping and thinking that his pocket awareness, which he's excellent at, will help him out. Because the reason I brought that up also is because Charlie from Maine was talking, and Charlie Wilson, those guys, I never try to put down what they say. I kind of like listen to what they're saying, and they have some really concerns that I can agree with. I think they kind of like jump over the cliff a little bit because he was talking about Dart yesterday, that Dart, he don't like Dart. And that surprised me that he said that. And because, he said that Dart may not make it through his career, which if he keeps playing, I feel is reckless. He may be correct in that manner.
Coach, if I can ask you to pause for half a second, I think you would probably agree with me. Maybe you won't, But I thought last week against Washington, Dart took a big step forward. I don't think he did anything reckless against the Commanders last week, and it was the first game that I thought of his 9 NFL starts this season where I could honestly tell you there was not one play that made me wince.
I agree with you, Paul. I wasn't concerned in the Washington game at all,
and that's a good sign.
Yeah, and that's the learning curve he has to get. I remember in August, people was concerned about him diving head first for touchdowns. I remember they talking about that. He was doing it again, and Dable was telling him to calm down a little bit. But, I'm just concerned that me and Lance got into it a little bit. I'm sorry for the listeners that heard that. But I believe those guys, once a quarterback runs out there, they coming after him. And if you're not going to slide, they're going to make you pay for it.
They will.
And I just think he's a very I loved how elusive he is, but I think he got to take a page out of some of these guys' books and know when to make those runs. The first series of the game, you don't want to take on linebackers trying to get a first down. You know what I mean?
No.
You got to pick your spots on that. But Wilson was not Wilson, but Charlie was saying he didn't like him, and I was wondering what Charlie thinks about how accurate he can be downfield. A lot of times our guys are dropping passes that he's putting right on the money with the defensive back right on them. So he's shown that he can anticipate. He has accuracy, and I love those things in a quarterback, and he's elusive. I just like him to protect himself, and that's all I hear if anybody that watches the game talk about is that, they don't want him to take as many hits that he's taken, and that's just a small concern. And my last part, Jonathan was on also. I wanted to talk to him yesterday, but he was talking about, we always talking about the Giants culture. And the culture is from the Lawrence Taylor days, from the Strahan days, Justin Tuck, and all of that. And those guys were like leaders, and we don't really have one of those vocal leaders. I'm not saying we don't have leaders, but we don't have a leader among leaders. And he made a great point that we have the guys that's been here is Slayton and Dexter Lawrence, and I can't remember the other, maybe Andrew Thomas may be the other one that has the most time here in the with the Giants organization, and those are really soft-spoken people. I'm not going to say they can't get into somebody, but they're really, to me, they're soft-spoken.
Well, there's no Antrell Roll kind of guy, Coach. Right? Antrell Roll was like a rabid dog, and he would let you know about it in a heartbeat.
Right. And that's what you need, Paul. You need those guys on the team. But
I agree.
We do have them, and they're in the young guys that are coming. Neighbors is one of those guys. Dart is one of those guys. And Scatterbull. Because if you notice, a lot of people kind of gravitate to these guys. And I think that's what Scatterbull brings. Because I have people here from Philadelphia stopping me in the parking lot because they see I got Giant stuff on, and they were talking about that Eagles game, but mainly they were talking about Scatterbull and how much they respect him. And he played about a one half or a quarter in that game, and those people gravitated.
Well, the game in Philly, the game in Philly when he got hurt, right?
The one in Philly, and those people in that stadium gravitated to him, and the people on that team gravitate to him. If you notice, when he was hurt, and they were talking about that thing where he was at the WWE, he had his players with him. But who was the one in the middle, in the front of those players? Abdul Carter was there, but it was Scatterbull. They went with Scatterbull. Scatterbull didn't go with them. They went to that event with Scatterbull, and that's the leadership you need, and that's what we need them to have. And I think a lot of that comes from when we get our next coach. What kind of discipline he brings in? And people don't believe in culture, but culture is real. And I believed in that. I've coached a team that didn't do well in my first year. That's what I put that discipline in them. And the thing we live by, this is my last part of the day, is I always say to this team, and I can text them right now, any of those players that played for me, and I will say, we're going to start together, and we're going to, and they all, and I say they don't say it unless you believe it, we're going to finish together. And we still live that today. And that's the culture you have to bring to this team. So
thank you, Coach.
You guys have a Merry Christmas.
You
if
too.
I don't talk to you next week.
I hope we do get to talk to you again, but if we don't, happy holiday. Thank you, Coach. Thoughts about what we have seen from practice and from Dart and from talking to the coordinators and Kafka this week in terms of the mentality of this team and how together they continue to be. You've been in that locker room as I have. This locker room is very upbeat. I know it's a terrible record that they have, but if you go in that locker room, you would not know what the record is.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt whatsoever. This team is still fighting and trying to win football games. And I know some fans might not want to hear that because of the conversation, unfortunately, we've had all too often this time of year, the last couple of seasons. But this team is still going out and trying to win. You know, I mean, there's no giving up from the locker room, which obviously that is a good thing. You don't want guys giving up and just mailing it in at the end of the season because they're eliminated and the record is what it is. You want to see them continue to fight. Now, it would be great if, you know, showing this fight actually led to a win or two.
I know.
Because, I don't know, yeah. This team is not giving up. Everyone, starting with Jackson. I mean, Jackson is really seemingly taking a step in his leadership. I mean, he's one of the voices in the locker room now.
Would you
the guys
agree with
listen
me
to him.
that a few weeks ago, after I forget which loss it was, he seemed really downtrodden after the game, and people said to me, it looks like the losing is starting to get to him and beat him down. But I think since then he's reversed his field, and he seems like he's gained his mojo again.
So it was
right?
it was after the Patriots game.
Okay.
We were in the locker room the day after, right before everyone left for the bye week. You're right. That was probably the most, I guess, dejected I've heard Jackson in any of his media sessions. They, you know, left, got a couple of days off, were out of the building for a few days, came back, and he looked like his old self in terms of how he, his composure, how he spoke to the media, how he was, you know, I'm sure his demeanor with his teammates did not change much, but you're right that one day in the locker room, he did seem different. You know, it was his first game back. He did not have a great game against the Patriots in that Monday night matchup. Took the big hit where the whole narrative was all about him not being able to protect himself, which I'm sure he's sick of hearing that by now. So, yeah, but since then, all of last week, all of this week, he has been, you know, that chipper leader, like standing in front of the room type of guy.
Let's go get it.
Let's go get it. Let's go win this game, which obviously he's 22 years old. He's a rookie, but hopefully he will be around here for a very long time and leading this team for a while. Hopefully. That is the type of leadership that you want from your quarterback, from hopefully your franchise quarterback.
Special Olympics, New Jersey's annual Snowball is heading to Rutgers Football Stadium in 2026. This annual flag football tournament will be on the field from March 6th through the 8th next year. The 6-on-6 tournament will feature competitive, recreational, and co-ed divisions, and all proceeds benefit thousands of Special Olympics New Jersey athletes across the Garden State. Register your team today at NewJerseySnowball.org. That's NJSnowball.org. Pearson, anything coming up this week on a huddle that everybody needs to know about?
Yes, we just posted the Tyrone Tracy interview. It's about a 20-minute interview. Talks about his 2-touchdown game last week. Talks about the Vikings defense coming up. And then on the audio version, we have a preview with Matthew Collar, who covers the Vikings. And then Mike Kafka and Bob Papa have their weekly interview as well.
All right, good stuff as always. John's always filling up stuff in the huddle. Again, you can subscribe by going to your favorite podcast platform or go to giants.com/podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is that you go to get them. Every week, we always try to fill up a lot of stuff there to enhance your enjoyment of New York Giants football. All right, before we get to any more calls, and if you'd like to give us a dial, it's 201-939-4513. We've got, about 15 minutes or so left, maybe 10 minutes or so left in the program. The other item that I wanted to talk about, Matt, is that, and I kind of don't want to bring it up, but I have to, the Giants have another new kicker this week.
Yes, they do.
And from listening to Mike Kafka today, Ben Sauls has, the former University of Pittsburgh kicker, who's a rookie. He's been in a few camps, but this would be his NFL debut.
Yeah.
And it certainly sounds like they're committed to having him kick. His long in college was of 58 yards in terms of made field goals. But Mike talked about him, and so did Michael Gobriel, the special teams coordinator, yesterday. They feel pretty good about his prospects.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's, as you mentioned, a guy that has never taken an actual kick in an NFL regular season game. So in that sense, you don't know exactly what to expect. But coming from the University of Pittsburgh, he's kicked in weather. I don't think weather is going to be a concern with him. It's not like he's a guy that is played his whole collegiate career kicking in a dome or in warm weather. He's probably used to, crazy winds and cold winters, cold falls. The thing that I found interesting, which Dan Salamone pointed out to John and I, was that Sauls will be the 5th different player to attempt a kick for the Giants this season. There's the 3 kickers, and then Jamie had the 1 extra point he attempted.
Wow.
5 different players attempt a kick. Across the rest of the NFL, 31 other teams, there have been 38 players total that have kicked.
Wow.
So it comes out to an average of, around 1.2 kickers per team, and then this will be the Giants' 5th. So that's an unfortunate situation that obviously, stemmed from the injury issues with Graham Gano. Obviously, going into the year, the expectation was that Graham would be the kicker for the whole season. And,
yes,
he is on the older side, a veteran kicker, but still, I don't think anyone could have fully expected the injuries that he has dealt with. And obviously, Younghoe Koo was brought in to what everyone thought would be that veteran kicker to come fill in for the rest of the season. Obviously, he had his own struggles kicking in this environment, in this, with the weather. He had a career in Atlanta kicking in a dome. So now we're on to Ben Sauls. Then the one thing that Dan also pointed out to me last night, which I did not even think about prior to him bringing this up, is Ben Sauls is a lefty.
Yes.
So we're switching it up. The whole field goal unit is switching it up from what they've been doing all season. But
as they say, the operation.
The operation, yes. But the one thing that I think is a little interesting, we don't know for sure if Jamie Gillen is playing. He's been limited in practice this week, which I would think would maybe put him towards the better side of questionable, but we don't know for sure.
Right.
His injury has been left knee injury. If he is the punter on Sunday, presumably I would think he would be the holder as well. I mean, that is a role that he's had since being here.
That is his usual job.
But with a lefty kicker, that means he'd be going down on his bad knee as the holder, which I don't know if you – I don't know. You obviously – I would think you wouldn't want your somewhat banged-up kicker having to put even more, weight and pressure on that bad knee.
Olszewski's the backup holder.
I was going to say
he's active again.
I was going to say maybe someone else serves as the holder this week until Jamie gets closer to full health. That is a possibility, but it just was something that we knew Ben Sauls is a lefty. I hadn't thought about the whole operation and then Jamie as the holder with his left knee injury, how that might play into the whole equation. I was a little surprised that no one on the beat decided to kind of ask about this, or maybe they didn't quite put it together. Because again, I didn't put it together until Dan brought it up. But I'm interested to see if there's any switches to the operation on Sunday, given everything I just said.
Now, interestingly enough, Sauls, when we got a chance to talk to him a couple of days ago, he talked about how when he was at Pittsburgh, remember the Pitt Panthers play in the same stadium as the Steelers do, the old Heinz Field, and they train like in the same spot, okay? Their training complexes right next to each other. And so there's a lot of interaction there. So he told us that he gleaned a lot from Chris Boswell, who's been a really good Steelers kicker for a long time, and if you remember, was a former Giant. He was with the Giants back in the training camp and preseason of 2015.
That's a good guy to learn from.
Okay.
Learn from any veteran kicker.
Yeah, and in addition to that, he also learned from Koo in Atlanta last year when he had a pit stop in the camp with the Falcons. So the one thing that we've been told by him and also by Gabriel is that even though he is, quote, an undrafted rookie kicker, he has had some experiences and been able to sponge off some very respectable and highly thought of kickers to kind of glean as much as he could. As he said, he's never kicked here before, but he does understand bad weather, and he has kicked outside here, and he's certainly done his research and his homework. He feels like, this is a great shot. He's looking for the opportunity. He's appreciative, and he feels as though he's prepared as well as he can be.
Yeah, I mean, look, we see across the NFL every season, kickers kind of come out of nowhere.
Yep.
Guys that you would not expect to be, NFL kickers all of a sudden. I mean, Brandon Aubrey literally came out of nowhere.
UFL.
He's
right?
now the
or
best
XFL.
kicker.
He was in the spring league.
Yeah, and he's now probably the best kicker in the NFL. One
yes,
of the best
is.
kickers
no,
in the
he
NFL.
Is. He's the best.
We see teams in recent years spend draft picks and like high draft picks on kickers. It almost never works out. The guy is on a new team by 2 seasons into his career. So,
yeah, they do better on the second or third team than the first team.
Yeah, so we don't know what to fully expect from Ben Sauls. I'm acknowledging, it could obviously go poorly, just like kind of the kicking operation for a lot of the season has gone in general. But it could also be, sort of like a diamond in the rough situation. We don't know. We're going to find out on Sunday and presumably the next 3 weeks. I mean, right now he's the only kicker on the roster. So
yes,
I would say the job is his. Obviously, if Sunday goes very poorly, then their changes could be made, similar to any other position.
Look, I don't want the Giants to go into the offseason not having any idea who their kicker might be next year. I would love to see this kid have 3 great weeks
100%.
and give them at least a taste of some stability.
Yeah, then you bring him back on some sort of deal to bring him into training camp. I would assume even if he does play well the next 3 weeks, you probably bring in another guy as well, have some sort of competition. But yeah, it would be fantastic if we could go into the offseason with at least, the inclination of, all right, we might have our kicker here.
Yep.
So we'll see how he does. This Sunday will be a big game. I don't know what the weather's supposed to be like Sunday. I think I heard it's actually supposed to
40s,
be pretty nice.
Yeah.
So
40s.
weather should not be a concern today. And next week, obviously, going to Vegas in a dome, weather will not be a concern there.
No, it will not.
So that would potentially leave Week 18 against the Cowboys at MetLife Stadium as what could be the final weather game.
Yes.
The Giants face, and Sauls is the potential kicker.
45 degrees and only a 6% chance of precip. So
we like that.
It looks real good. Looks real good.
A lot
for him.
better than this morning.
The other item that I just wanted to address real quickly before we sign off, we only have a couple minutes left on the program. If you want to get in, 201-939-4513. The other brief item to throw out there, Tyler Nubin, who was excused yesterday for personal reasons, was back on campus today and practicing. At least that's what Mike Kafka had said. He would be out there today. So that's kind of nice. I bring that up because the safety spot kind of raised some eyebrows last week. We saw Javon Holland returning punts. And some of the writers were very concerned about that because they've seen, as we've all seen before, some star regulars get punt return duties over the years and get hurt.
Yep.
So a question was asked about Holland's ability to do so and why put him out there. Well, Gabriel and Kafka talked about the fact that he's really, really good in terms of fielding the punts and catching the ball. He's been one of those guys since training camp who's been in that. Yeah. They have like 7 or 8 guys who rotate since the beginning of camp who just kind of practice doing it, even if they don't think they're going to be used. But what we were told is that they like Javon Holland's ability to field the ball, catch the ball, and then I think Gabriel even said they like the way he runs with it too. So that's why Javon Holland was out there. Now, in all honesty, he is one of your 2 starting safeties. I would prefer he's not. I don't know what they're going to do this week or in the last 3 games as a whole. If he will continue to be back there, I would think Olszewski, since he's been cleared, I would think Olszewski will be back there on punt return duties. But I just wanted to throw that out there for you because I know there were some people who were very surprised, shocked, and I don't know if it was answered on any of our other shows because we didn't get an answer until we talked to Gabriel yesterday about why Holland was put back there.
I don't remember if it was Gabriel yesterday or Kafka Wednesday, but one of them said, like, yes, we put him back there for everything you just said, but the expectation was most of the time he would just call a fair catch.
Right.
Which it has not been every time.
Kafka said that.
Kafka said it, yeah. Which most of, I feel like, the punts he has fielded, he has not called a fair catch on everyone. He did have a couple of small, short returns.
Mm-hmm.
But they said they put him back there, as you mentioned, just because they felt the most confidence in him just being able to cleanly field it, not really expecting much, if any, of a return. But yeah, I would assume with Gunnar Olszewski back, you probably will retake his role as the punt returner. He is listed as the starting punt returner on the unofficial depth chart. So as long as he plays, which he's been full all week, I don't see why he wouldn't. I think that would make him, I would say, at least the favorite to probably be the returner. Kafka did mention before that Tyler Newman returning to practice would be the only change to the injury report from yesterday,
Right.
which, going off of yesterday's, I would assume that means Bo Collins is likely out because he DNP all week.
Mm-hmm.
Kayvon Thibodeau probably out
Mm-hmm.
with DNPs all week. Nacho, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, I'm not sure because he's had an illness.
Right.
And that, while players have missed, obviously, some practice days because of illness, typically is not something that the guy deals with for like an entire week that forces them to miss the game Sunday.
And if he feels better tomorrow, he'll probably go.
So I would think, unless it's some very, very bad illness, but I mean, if it's what's been going around to everyone in the locker room and across the league, I would assume that would put him on the right side of questionable for Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And then Evan Neal will not be activated, it sounds like, if he's not practicing again today.
Sure.
Because of what did Kafka say, that he felt sore?
He had a
coming after his first full practice.
Yeah, I believe they listed neck and hamstring as soreness,
for
right?
Evan. No, I think just hamstring.
Was it just hamstring
for him?
Okay.
Yeah. So it sounds like he will not be activated.
I agree with that
for Sunday. Everyone else, I would think, puts them on the right side of questionable at the very least. Drew Phillips has been limited in practice this week, but 3 straight limited practices. I would think that he will play.
Mm-hmm.
The only one that I'm interested to see is Jamie Gillen, because as a punter, and it's your kicking leg with a knee injury, that one, maybe they want to see him get back to full before they bring it back. I don't know. We should get the final injury report in about an hour.
And remember, Johnston is still on the roster.
Johnston is still on the practice squad, yes.
Yeah,
so
he's still in the building.
Elevate him again.
He could be elevated as a practice squad elevation.
For sure.
Exactly. All right, folks, that'll do it for this edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Remember, on Sunday, the Giants will host the Minnesota Vikings, a 1 o'clock kickoff. A pregame on WFAN radio here in New York starts at 11 a.m. John, Tiki Barber, and myself. Then after the game, you can check out the 2-hour Giants postgame show on WFAN, or as soon as the game's over, we have the 1-hour MSG Giants postgame live as well. So we'll be busy. We hope you guys take the time to check us out and enjoy some New York Giants football. Until then, we are coming to you from the Hackensack Meridian Health Podcast Studio. Keep getting better. I'm Paul Dottino. He's Matt Citak, and we will see you next time.